Alors, bonsoir, bienvenue à la Cinémathèque et encore désolé pour ce petit retard. Vous êtes nombreux à vouloir assister à cette projection. Malheureusement, la Cinémathèque, ici à Montbénon, a deux salles, 7 salles, cinématographe de 100 places, et le Paderewski, qui est bien plus grande. Mais comme ce soir, il y a le concert, évidemment, on ne pouvait pas l'utiliser pour la projection. Donc, il y a quelques déçus dehors. On va voir si on pourra faire quelque chose pour eux. Peut-être prochainement reproposer cette projection. Alors, soirée très très spéciale, dédiée à Rachmaninoff. Un film d'abord, un concert après. Tout ça a été organisé grâce à la suggestion et à l'organisation de la Fondation Rachmaninoff, qu'on remercie pour nous avoir suggéré de proposer ce film, vu évidemment le succès. Et c'est un grand honneur pour nous de présenter aussi le réalisateur de ce film, Tony Palmer, qui est en fait un réalisateur et un metteur en scène de théâtre et d'opéra, qui a réalisé des centaines de portraits cinématographiques dédiés au monde de la musique, on peut dire, au monde de la musique classique, mais non exclusivement. Il a fait, je me permets de dire, aussi des portraits dédiés plus à des auteurs du monde de la musique rock et pop. Mais là, on est ici pour Rachmaninoff, et je laisse tout de suite la parole à Monsieur Tony Palmer pour vous introduire ce film. Merci. Mr. Palmer, d'accord.
Bonsoir, mesdames et messieurs. Je m'excuse, mais mon français est très mal. Und tut mir leid, mein Deutsch ist schlechter. I therefore will speak in English, but you all speak English anyway. Unfortunately, I will not have subtitles when I speak in English. The film does have French subtitles. Thank you very much for asking me here, and to the Rachmaninoff Foundation. I just thought I could tell you maybe a couple of things which might be of interest about the film. The film had really 3 godfathers, we would say in English. The first was Valery Gergiev and the Mariinsky Theatre. And I was working in the Mariinsky Theatre in 1997, where, and this is the truth, I actually did the Russian premiere of Parsifal. It had never ever been performed in Russia. So this man did the Russian premiere of Parsifal. Anyway, I hope you haven't missed anything, madam, I haven't started yet. During the rehearsals, Gergiev said to me, we must make a film about Rachmaninoff. And I said, why? And he then explained to me the connection between Rachmaninoff and the Mariinsky Theatre, which you will see. And I said to Gergiev, well, the only way in which I would consider doing it is if you do the music. Now, for those of you who know something about Valery Gergiev, he will conduct 3 concerts on the same day in 3 different parts of the world. So he is, to put it mildly, rather busy. So anyway, he looked at me and he said, is that the deal? And I said, that is the deal. I will make the film if you do the music. And as I think you will see, he does the music wonderfully, really, really wonderfully. So that was Godfather number 1. Godfather number 2 was the grandson of Rachmaninoff, Alexander, who lives still in Rachmaninoff's house on the Lake of Lucerne. Now, everybody had told me that he is very, very difficult. So I made contact with him, and he said, well, come to Switzerland and we will talk. So he met me at Zurich Airport and took me to lunch. And at the lunch, he always says he doesn't drink. That's not quite true, but he doesn't drink very much. But between us, we got through 3 bottles of Aigler wine. And at the end of this, I have no idea what I was saying or what I was agreeing to. But he then took me back to the house, Sennar, which you will see in the film. And he said, I have something to show you. So he took me to the basement of the house. He said, in that cupboard there is all the home movies that my grandfather shot on 8mm. So I, of course, immediately, instinctively went straight for the cupboard. And he grabbed me and he said, no, 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 you haven't signed anything yet. And I said, even more, you'll see some of the home movies here, but even more important was, he said, in that cupboard there is all the correspondence between my grandfather, Rachmaninoff, and his two daughters. Because when he was exiled in America, he began to write to his daughters to explain what had happened in 1917 and then all the years subsequently. And these letters had never been published, still have never been published in the West. They have been published in Russia. And of course, I instinctively went straight to this cupboard because I thought this is a real treasure. The reason I tell you about the letters is that when I come to Godfather number 3, which was the great actor Sir John Gielgud, what he says in the film is entirely taken from all these letters, which a friend of mine and then my wife translated. We knew which sections to look for. So you're going to hear the real Rachmaninoff, as it were, describing to his daughters his life. So that was a real stroke of luck. Gielgud, I had worked with many, many times. And I was trying to think of somebody who was old enough and sounded with authority, so he could read these letters from Sergei Rachmaninoff to his daughters, and you would believe that this was the real man, except he wasn't speaking in Russian, of course. So I asked Gielgud if he would do it, and he did, as you'll hear. And when we recorded this, Gielgud was 96. And it was, in fact, we didn't know at the time, it was the last thing he ever recorded. He died about 6 months later. And at the end of the recording, which I will never forget for obvious reasons, at the end of the recording, he stood up and he looked at me and he said, I won't do his voice because you know Gielgud's voice, I'm sure. He said, you know, I saw Rachmaninoff on the stage. And I said, and I'm thinking, when did Rachmaninoff come to London? Oh, yes, he came in 1937. So I said, oh, you must have seen him in 1937, Sir John. He said, don't be silly, boy. I saw him in 1909. Can you believe that? When Gielgud was 6 or 7. So I asked Gielgud to describe what he remembered. And unfortunately, I couldn't interview him because it would have changed the film. But his impression was very, very clear. He said, Rachmaninoff, you know that there's the famous description of Rachmaninoff by, I think it's Stravinsky, that Rachmaninoff was a 6-foot scowl. That's what Stravinsky thought Rachmaninoff looked like. Gielgud said that Rachmaninoff, he gave a recital in what was a famous concert hall in London called the Queen's Hall, destroyed in the war, unfortunately. He said he walked on, he didn't look at the audience, he ignored the applause completely, sat down and played about 10, 12 pieces. Never got up in between the pieces to acknowledge the applause, just waited until it stopped, then started the next one. And when it got to the last piece, applause started, he just got up, didn't look at the audience and walked off. And so that was Rachmaninoff, the very great pianist. Anyway, the film was made in 1998. We had incredible access to things, as you will see, and I hope you find it interesting. I brought a few copies of the DVD. I'm afraid this is the English version, or no, it is in Italian as well. And the Swiss all speak Italian anyway. I came on a train today from Chur on Graubünden, and I was sitting opposite two people who spoke in Italian very loudly the entire time. So I'm convinced that Switzerland is truly an Italian country. You know what I mean. Anyway, thank you very much for coming. It's very flattering to have such a wonderful audience, and I will be outside afterwards signing some copies if you would like to take them. Thank you very, very much.